Welcome back, baseball fans, to the second round draft results of the 1970-73 Summer League. Second round had trades in it as well, and there are some cool, crazy, fun picks to be had. Teams getting better. Everybody thinks they're the most clever team in the league. Who knows when this is all done? But last pick of the first round was the comp pick for Arizona, and they took 318 hitting Brock Davis with the 33rd pick. So Cleveland will begin the second round of the draft. They took Frank Robinson in the first round, and in the second round they take 1972 Duke Sims platoon card, 316, 432, 489, 12. It's just a bopper of a card, and the more bopper cards you add, eventually you get a pretty good offense. And Cleveland would not have to do a whole lot this year to get better than last year and get past Detroit, win the division. So that is their pick in the first round, Duke Sims. With the second pick, Colorado takes Ron Reed with a second pick. One of his, in the 4 years, this is the best year for him pitching on 3 days rest. Again, a lifetime Rocky for some reason, a 1.23 ERA. He has a nice long career, does Ron Reed. He's a starter, then eventually becomes a reliever with the White Sox, and then the Phillies and the White Sox. He'll do it all with the Colorado Rockies just to give the team some stability. And no other moves by the Rockies. Third pick in the second round, the Toronto Blue Jays. After grabbing Tommy Agee in the first round, they went off the keeper board into a rookie board of 1972 and found a gentleman by the name of Phil Hennigan, because he's got a 106 whip in the bullpen. And it's Toronto. And Toronto had 7 slots in the rotation, and Hennigan completes the bullpen and everything. So Toronto has taken all the pitchers already. They've decided that they know they got a pathetic offense, but at least they're going to have one of the best pitching staffs, clearly, for a team that didn't even exist. So Phil Hennigan is their second round pick. I don't think he had a long shelf life, but at age 26, he had a pretty nice year with Cleveland. And I think that was it. They're going to take this Brazil guy with their next selection, we believe. When you see a name like this, it's just a note indicating it's a comment of don't forget about this guy when they're on the clock. Okay, fourth pick in the second round belongs to the Cubs. And the Cubs, after taking Fergie Jenkins in the first round, they take Rick Russell. They had a choice of him pitching on 3 days rest or 4 days rest. They found that when he pitches on 4 days rest, he's a little bit better, so they took that. They don't need him to pitch on 3 days rest because they have Fergie Jenkins and they have Bert Hooton at the top of that rotation. And I think they also ended up announcing that Ron Santo will be coming back, of course, with a year where he hits 300 in 1972 as well. So that gets announced as a later round pick. So Rick Russell and Ron Santo, the Cubs are getting better. Next up with the fifth pick, the Padres. Nothing sexy here. They went with a lefty setup guy, but these are very valuable in the carryover league, particularly if their ERA is around 2-something. Joe Gibbon is the pick from the 71 box. And I believe they also added a nice fun card, Clay Dalrymple. You're going to be like, what? Well, he didn't play very much, 49 at-bats, but folks, he has a 409 on-base percentage. And it's a goofy-looking card, as you can see there. So they added him to a fun offense. This guy will get on base, and they can do the Padres. And don't look now, but Randy Jones is on the horizon. So San Diego is going to be a fun team to play. I'll give them that. Sixth team, Texas. They went Howard first round. They go back to the other guy, Mike Epstein. 72 card was an Oakland A. Not anymore. He's going to be playing for Texas. How do you get past the dynasty Oakland A's? You take their players away from them. So Mike Epstein, nice little piece taken away from Oakland, is on Texas. with a 72 card. They also added Bill Hands to be announced in the 6th round. They don't need him to pitch on 3 days rest either. So Epstein and Hands, the Rangers are trying to hang in there in a tough American League West. Atlanta, oh my, look out New York Mets. They're coming for you. Atlanta took Rico Carty, the 366 hitter, in the 1st round, and they come back with 1973 Darrell Evans and his 41 home runs, 959 OPS. And they also announced that in the 5th round, they're going to take George Stone, has his best year, and guess who he did it with, folks? The New York Mets. Ooh, the Braves are trying to rub salt into the wound. That's right, they took a Met pitcher, and unfortunately, the Mets couldn't get Stone anyway because he's left-handed, and they already have Kuzman, Matlack, and Tug McGraw. And Atlanta swoops down, and they want to come for the king. When you come for the king, you best not miss. Atlanta intends not to. All right. Milwaukee. They went with Ken McMullen, a reliable third baseman, nice rangy player with some power, a nice gentleman, nice player, probably ain't going to help win the division, I don't think. And they also took Steve Hovley, a nice little center fielder, and the needle does not move. Congratulations, Milwaukee, for getting the minimum daily requirements out of a baseball roster. It's a tough time here for the Brewers. They just turned into the Brewers in 1970 from the Seattle Pilots. All right, Ohio players made some flashy picks in 73. They took Bill Robinson's first good year at age 30. Talk about a late bloomer, folks. Bill Robinson did not do anything productive until he turned 30 years old in 1973 for the Phillies, and then he was very good for the rest of the decade. A 288, 326, 529, 855. These expansion teams love versatility as well. He can play third base and the outfield. And then they announced in the 5th round that they're stealing Dan Driesen away from the Cincinnati Reds, who still have Lee May and Tony Perez at first base anyway. And this is what happens when you have a 32-team league. You can't sandbag Dan Driesen in your minor league system, Cincinnati. He is now gone. And it's only 70 to 73. And yep, he ain't coming back. Ohio players not letting that guy go. He will bloom through this decade. Arizona, this is actually their 3rd pick because they got the Commissioner Award. So they have the 10th overall pick, the 33rd pick, and the 43rd pick. And they took Daryl Knowles and decided on a 71 card. Puts less guys on base, gives up a couple more homers, but they figured that was better than the low ERA card. And they also announced that they take Chuck Dobson's 71 card as a number 4 starter, which is fine for an expansion team. One of the first teams to have 4 players from 3 different years: Knowles, Davis, Reggie Cleveland, and Chuck Dobson. This basically means that they could conceivably have a 20-man roster before the 8th round of the draft. And then they could just replace guys that they like with better guys on the street, if that exists. So, Team 11, the Expos, L'Orange Grand. The Big Orange, Rusty Staub, his best year with the Expos was 70. An 891 OPS and 30 bombs. Coupled with Rogers and Fairley in the 1st and 4th rounds. And then they also announced that Mac Jones will be coming back as their 8th round pick. Really cool platoon player, 398 on base, 458 slugging, 856 OPS, kind of as a one-way player. 31 years old, last good year for Mac Jones. Trying to make the Expos fun and exciting, if not competitive. All right, we had a trade, and the Baltimore Orioles made trades with the St. Louis Cardinals and the Phillies in the 2nd round of the draft, and frankly, the Cardinals and the Phillies got better. So in the first part of the trade, Baltimore sends lefty reliever Steve Barber and a token to St. Louis for Milt Pappas. And the idea that Baltimore is going to put Milt Pappas in their rotation and trade Pat Dobson a little bit later to the Phillies. So the Cardinals now, after taking Lou Brock and Rick Wise, in the second round they take Al Hrabosky's 1973 card. They also get the other lefty in the trade. They now have the full complement of left-handed pitchers on their team. They had too many righties. Wayne Simpson goes back into the rotation. Chuck Taylor will be their closer. That will complete the rotation. Plus, they pick up a token from Baltimore. St. Louis is trying their best to figure out a way of getting past Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. It's going to be hard. But Lou Brock, Hrabosky, they got Bob Gibson, Rick Wise, Wayne Simpson. They're not going to give in to the Reds and Pirates just because of the realignment. If you want to consider the St. Louis plight, consider the plight of the Padres and Giants in the 70s when the Reds and Dodgers were routinely winning the West. Well, now it's the Cardinals and the Cubs living that harsh reality, because with realignment, it's the Reds and Pirates in the same division. That is really going to make it hard for the Cardinals and Cubs. So if there's a team you want to root for, folks, the Cardinals and Cubs should get your sympathy. They are up against it, and they're getting Hall of Famers when they can, like Brock. The best Hrabosky card till 75 comes along. And they just beat the Orioles in a trade, which doesn't happen very often. All right, 13th pick, Florida. Here's a nice little move, under-the-radar move, and a bleak farm system because they're an expansion team that didn't exist. They found one of the best available 1971 free agents, which is Ed Acosta, who only pitched 46 innings, but he had a 1.08 whip and a 2.74 ERA, and that seems like a steal for the young Florida Marlins trying to tread water in the tough National League East. The White Sox, after blowing everybody away in the first round by taking Dick Allen and Carlos May in the first and sixth rounds at a combined 1,966 OPS between those two studs, they settle back by simply improving Bill Melton to his 71 card, where he hits 33 home runs, but he becomes a competent fielding third baseman, and he wasn't prior to this. So now he can field. Now he's got a glove. Now the White Sox are slowly, methodically improving their squad. This is a division that's in transition between an old Minnesota team and a young Kansas City team, and the White Sox are kind of squeezed in the middle trying to make some noise. All right, the Pirates. After taking Zisk, it just seems like every time the Pirates take a guy, you grunt. The rest of the major leagues groans. I'm going to call right now the Pirates and Oakland as my preseason World Series favorites, just because Pittsburgh had such a terrible year last year. It was bad luck. I think they finally get past Cincinnati. And they did win the 1971 World Series, don't forget. And they had the best record in baseball in 1972. But Pittsburgh does it here by taking Richie Hebner, 24 years old. He'd actually been in the league for a few years. They took Richie Zisk as a 24-year-old rookie in the first round. Hebner only hits, 300, 378, 508, 86. And they also announced that in their sixth-round pick, they're taking Bob Moose with a 291 ERA and a 115 whip. Their pitching staff is getting better than the Reds, and their offense is getting right there, if not better than the Reds. Look out for the Pittsburgh Pirates. They're getting rid of any and all holes in their roster. And last year was an embarrassment. And this year, they're coming for everybody's lunch money. All right. Crazy Seattle, who in the first round improved a couple players. They finally added some guys. And Seattle was a team, one of the few teams in baseball that traded for a rangy center fielder in Matty Alou and turned him into a designated hitter. Because they don't really need a rangy center fielder, because they took Dave May. They improved Dave May to be that. And besides Matty Alou, they also took a nice Dick Woodson card of 72, 2.72 ERA, and 1.16 whip, and a pitch on 3 days rest. These are smart picks, and it's about roster utilization. And now these 4 players are all very good. Dave May wasn't good last year. Norman wasn't. Alou is better than he was with the Pirates, believe it or not. And Woodson's better. So it's a roundabout way of getting better. Of course, they still have a lot to do. They're going to be 2 roster spots short when the draft ends. Philadelphia. Boy, they're happy. They had the rights to Grant Jackson, a lefty reliever who was a starting pitcher for Philadelphia. And Baltimore thought that the only weakness they've had in the last couple years is left-handed relief pitching. So they traded 20-game winner Pat Dobson to the Phillies for the rights to Grant Jackson and a reliever named Bill Wilson. And the Phillies added right-handed reliever Fred Gladding with a 102 whip. And they already have enough lefties because they have Max Scarce, Joe Horner, and of course Steve Carlton. Dare we say it, Philadelphia has 47 wins at the top of the rotation, 27 from Carlton and 20 from Pat Dobson. The Phillies are coming for the Mets. The Braves are coming for the Mets. The National League East is getting scary. That's what happens when you win the World Series. Everybody comes gunning for you. All right, the Yankees. They decided the only way they're going to get past Baltimore and Boston is to outpitch them if they can, and they are on the way. After getting Fritz Peterson, they add Fred Beans, 1973 card with a .68 ERA and a .03 whip. They'll have Sparky Lau with a 1.92 ERA. Peterson, McAndrew, and Stottlemyre all have ERAs below 3. Folks, we might actually say that the New York Yankees might have a better pitching staff than the Baltimore Orioles, which would be a shocking statement for this era between 70 and 73, because the Yankees did nothing. They were a 500 squad in this era, but they are cleverly drafting. They're the underdogs. They're not the big bad Bronx Bombers. They're the underdogs, and they're cleverly drafting stud pitching. But they're also ending up with Gene Michael playing short, so that's the offset. Portland added Mark Belanger to play shortstop as a 1/18. Again, stealing from the Orioles. Again, the Orioles won the World Series, but what happens is everybody steals your players. So Belanger, the Orioles can't keep all of that great nucleus. So Belanger was lost. And they also added Jerry Kenny from the Yankees. These 2 players aren't going to move the needle that much for Portland, but they're an expansion team. And that division is up for grabs every year. The Twins, after adding Harmon Killebrew in the first round, they come back and get 1973 Larry Heisel. His first big year at age 26 after stumbling in the early 70s. He comes back with a nice 272, 351, 422 year with some speed. More importantly, he becomes the Twins' property until the late 70s when he goes to Milwaukee. But anyway, Heisel's a nice pick for the Twins. Vegas. Las Vegas decided to improve Ken Brett. We talked earlier how about Las Vegas likes to improve their players in the draft before they add new ones. They did it 4 times last year. This was the first guy they improved, and it's Ken Brett. He was a middling reliever last year. Now he's pitching on 3 days rest with a 13-9 record and a 3.44 ERA. Good luck, Ken Brett and Las Vegas. Kansas City, the Golden Boys of the American League, the young up-and-comers, the team that's going to try and change baseball history by competing for a World Series before George Brett arrives. Did they do the right things in the second round? Well, they took Lou Piniella He was a 288 hitter. Now he's a 312 hitter. They of course improved Amos Otis in the first round to give him his big year of 73. And they also got the 72 Ed Kirkpatrick card, 275 with a 761 OPS, can catch and play first base. Smart moves. I will caution that Kansas City is really preoccupied with the offense, and they're going to have one of the best offenses, but they haven't addressed pitching yet, so they could be overlooking that. That's the challenge in the next portion of the draft. Houston couldn't find anybody they liked in the minor leagues in the year of 73, so when that happens, they decide to improve one of their own current players, which is Bob Watson. He goes from being a 270 hitter to being a 312, 403, 449, 852 guy with all the same versatility he had. He's only 27 years old. They bump him up to a 73 card. After that expires, they'll have him for about 8 years until eventually he goes to the American League. But Bob Watson is just sliding into the beginning here with Houston. All right, so Baltimore, what do? Well, after all that trading, they lost 2 tokens. They lost a 20-game winner. But they said, after taking Cuellar in the first round, they do go after Grant Jackson, because at age 30 in 1973, he is 8-0 with a 1.90 ERA and a .971 ERA, and that grown you here is the rest of the American League. Getting a little sick in the stomach with Baltimore improving their pitching. But it was a very expensive improvement, as they ended up losing a 20-game winner in the process. Oh, and by the way, remember losing Frank Robinson? Well, he's been replaced by Al Bunbury with his .337 batting average in his rookie year. So Bunbury slides in a Robinson spot, and Grant Jackson's the lefty in the bullpen to go along with Eddie Watt, Dick Hall. That doesn't matter because they got Palmer, Cuellar, Milt Pappas, and Dave McNally. Whew. Man, oh man. And this is after kind of losing 2 trades with Philadelphia and St. Louis. So, anyway. Oakland. This is my World Series pick, folks. That's not going out far on a limb, is it? I mean, they only went to 3 of them. In this round, they would get Ken Holtzman, 26 years old, traded for in the offseason. They skip the early 70 and 71 years. They go straight to his 72 year. He wins a World Series with the A's, 19-11, 251 ERA, and 37 starts. He joins Reggie Jackson. Oh, and by the way, they also announced in the 6th round, they're improving Joe Rudy to his best year he ever had. He's only a 1-2 in left field, who hits .305. Yeah, and they still are going to add Bando's best year and Dick Green to this roster. So I'm picking the A's to get past the Orioles and some other teams in the American League. All right, the Dodgers. I'm not crazy about these moves, but Dodgers seem to think so. So in the first round, after simply improving Sutton and Brewer and making them arguably the top right-handed starter and left-handed reliever in all of baseball, they just came to terms with Andy Messersmith and Claude Osteen with 1-year deals with their 1970 cards. Nothing flashy about them, but the reality is that Messersmith and Osteen will be the number 3 and 4 starters behind Sutton and Tommy John, who they're going to pick later in the draft. All right, the Angels are just building the older part of the roster. They took Singer in the first round. In the second round, they take Jay Johnstone and announce Jim McLaughlin later. These are all keepers. Their rookie class is not good. This could be a down year for the Angels, who overachieved last year. The yin and the yang. They overachieved. They won the division. You know Oakland is not going to lose this division to California 2 years in a row, particularly when the A's are adding Ken Holtzman, Reggie Jackson, Joe Rudy, and the Angels are countering with Jay Johnstone and Jim McLaughlin and Cesar Tovar. Not seeing how that, but that's the best the Angels can get. Maybe Nolan Ryan will throw 5 or 6 no-hitters. All right. The Big Red Machine. They are being very careful with this draft. They're not overdrafting. They simply said, give me Pete Rose, 1970, and now they say, give me Lee May, 1971, which was better than 1970. Very methodical. They're the Reds. They don't have to do anything flashy and make trades. Just make sure you put the blocks in place that historically occurred, and lament that you can't trade for Joe Morgan sooner than later, but the Reds will be fine because they have Johnny Bench. That's enough to get you into the playoffs, simply having Johnny Bench in your team. And from there, it's going to be a dogfight with the Pirates for that division. You see some notes here. I'm going to put another one. Already thinking about improving Concepcion, getting Billy Hammond in the rotation, Wayne Granger, Dick Bosman. So a lot of head work with the Reds. So they're being very patient. They've got these penciled in moves, but they're going to be very careful with all 8 of their picks to make sure they get the BPA. All right. Giants are kind of forced into the Hall of Fame category. After taking William McCovey in the first round, they have to pencil in Juan Marichal in the second round with his 107 ERA, 107 whip card of 71 at age 33 after a slump in the year 70. So the 69 card is finally gone. 4 years of that, 2 or 3 Cy Youngs, I lost track, and now he still has a Cy Young caliber card available in 71. It's going to be tough. McCovey and Marichal take a slight step down from amazing to simply awesome in the years of 70 and 71. All right, we get to Boston. They took 1970 Reggie Smith. They felt that his performance in all 4 years is about the same. He's only 25 years old. His contract will be up next year, and they can decide to trade him to St. Louis or renew him again. And they also took the 70 Petrocelli because they don't need him to move over to third base yet. They have John Kennedy playing third base. Petrocelli can play short. Those 2 players can flip next year if needed. The Tigers, the fine wine, the fine Pinot Noir of the American League. They get old, they get better. So after taking 36-year-old Norm Cash in the first round, they take 33-year-old Jim Northrup and 33-year-old Dick McAuliffe, who improve their performance. Northrup is back up to a 307 hitter in 1973. McAuliffe's got his best offensive year, 274 in 1973. I don't know how they do it. Plus, K-Line can be improved. I think he's like 36, 37. The Tigers just the rare anomaly of players who can play past age 34 and be great. And lastly, the New York Mets. I guess we'll just take Jerry Koosman's best year in the timeline, joining Tom Seaver, John Matlack, et al. They again won the World Series. They're going to run it back. Remember, they added Willie Mays in the offseason to play center field instead of Tommy A.G. Mets just, checking the boxes. No holes, of course, in the pitching staff. Grody's going to have a -3 arm in 1970. Harrelson's a 1 at shortstop. Again, Willie Mays is a 2 -3 arm in center field. I don't know how you're going to score more than 3 runs against the Mets. So, again, all the Mets have to do is pretty much hit 260 to win the division. So, anyway, that's the end of the second round. Hope you're enjoying the 1970-73 Summer League Draft. We'll see you next time.